Almighty God, who, in thy infinite wisdom and providential goodness, has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of all those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. All which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Good morning. Good morning to our members, our guests, audience, everyone, persons listening.
And congratulatory remarks.
Members, I'm sure that both sides would like to express arbitrary remarks about the passing of our former president, and you may have others. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow 3 members on either side, but please, can you keep it brief? I repeat, brief. Anybody?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to express sincere sympathies once again to Dr. Liverpool's wife, present with us here today, and also his children listening overseas. Dr. Liverpool was a man, very, very strong man, educated, very firm in terms of his knowledge, and as a man who was prepared for the unknown and, of course, the great beyond. I met with him a number of times, a great friend of the family as well, too, and I think we have lost a great son of the soil. And Madam Speaker, with these few words, I wish to say that on the government side, we sincerely mourn the loss of Dr. Liverpool, and we wish him all the best, his spirit, of course, in his journey towards the great beyond. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I too would like to take this opportunity to stand and say a few words on behalf of myself personally, on behalf of the Chambers of the Attorney General, and I would like to think on behalf of the Dominican people, but certainly on behalf of this side of the House, to express our deepest sympathies with Mr. Liverpool and the Liverpool family, and to express, Madam Speaker, the deep appreciation that we in Dominica came to have for Dr. Liverpool, and speaking for myself personally, that I came to have for him, having had the opportunity to engage with him on a number of occasions, both in a professional or official capacity, but also on a more personal level. Madam Speaker, Dr. Liverpool was someone who we were graced to have as a member of our community and of our society, and also to serve for an extended period as the President of this country. He served, Madam Speaker, with great dignity, great distinction, great integrity. And Madam Speaker, I believe that all right-minded Dominicans will join with me in expressing our profound sympathies to the Liverpool family, and to say that those of us who have had the opportunity to interact with Dr. Liverpool during his lifetime certainly are better off for that experience. Madam Speaker, with those few words, I resume my seat.
Madam Speaker, just permit me, before I express my own condolences to the family of the late Dr. Liverpool, to place on record my personal and the government appreciation to Mrs. Raymond for her service to the House of Assembly over an extended period of time. She's moved on to another post in the public service, and I wish to also welcome
of myself and my family to her and her family. We'll go on to the next item now, please.
Confirmation of minutes of the meeting of 27th and 28th May 2015.
I'm told that a telephone is interrupting the things. I would ask every member to turn off their cell phones because we all hear the humming. And perhaps if everybody turned off their mobile, it might be helpful. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you allow me, it will remiss of me not to recognize that your attire for the house has been upgraded. You've always fancy gold trimming and so. I am not sure, Madam Speaker, if one day you will have the flowery hats as we have in the other jurisdictions, Madam Speaker.
Who knows?
Madam Speaker, I move that the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, 27th May and 20th May 2015 be confirmed as circulated.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of the meeting of 27th and 28th May 2015 be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Announcement by Speaker.
I would just like to thank again the input of GIS, MAPUN, and SAT in bringing these proceedings live, and to let persons know that if they go onto the GIS website, they will be apprised of how they can get the link so that they can watch it, as not only just hear it. I'm sure everybody has noticed our beautiful blooms. I will thank everybody at the end of the meeting, but please, I couldn't let this time pass because you're all here to notice them and to let you know these flowers came from Dr. Pascal, and Mrs. Fadel did the arrangements. I want to thank her because she came at late notice and did a brilliant job. I hope you all agree with me that that was done. I also want to acknowledge the presence of our new clerk, Mrs. John, and to say that every time we have these transitions, it's a learning experience for everybody, and I'm just hoping that, you know, we just continue from where we left off and move forward. As to the attention which the Honorable Prime Minister has paid to my robe, every time we have a meeting or budget meeting or the opening of Parliament, we try to just bring everything up a notch. And I thank the Minister of Finance for allowing us to do this particular one, i.e. the robe. Thank you.
Presentation of papers.
Madam Speaker, I may have to ask the Minister of Finance for clothing allowance myself. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice. Sorry, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table the following papers. 1, draft estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2015-2016. 2, economic and social review for fiscal year 2014-2015. And 3, tax information exchange amendment order 2015, SRO number 13 of 2015.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table. Item number 4, Dominica Festival Committee, Carnival Development Committee, financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2014. Dominica Festival Committee, World Queer Music Festival, financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2013.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table. Audited statement of receipts and payments in respect of the Education Trust Fund for the period January 1, 2013 to December 31st, 2013.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table. Annual Report of Invest Dominica Authority for year ended June 30, 2013.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table. The National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission Annual Report for the period January 1st, 2010 to December 31st, 2010, and the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission Annual Report for the period January 1st, 2011 to December 31st, 2011.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table. Independent Regulatory Commission Annual Report for the period January 1st, 2014 to December 31st, 2014.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table the Dominica Water and Sewage Company Limited Annual Report for the year ended June 30th, 2013.
Government notices.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be taking the matter standing in my name on the other paper.
Official notices. Questions? Statement by ministers. Go ahead. Right. Pen of bills.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act 2015.
The bill has been read the first time.
Madam Speaker, I move that $125,959,950, the details of which are contained in the draft estimates of the Commonwealth of Dominica for the year ending 30th June 2016.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Cabinet colleagues, members of this Honorable House, distinguished guests, fellow Dominicans, residents, and friends. It is with profound gratitude to God and to the people of Dominica that I deliver this budget address at this juncture in our continued development as a free, independent nation. It is also significant that this is the first budget of the new term in office of the Dominica Labour Party government. I take this opportunity, once again, to express my profound gratitude to the electorate of Dominica for its overwhelming vote of confidence in the policies and the leadership of this great political organization, founded on the principles of equality and justice for all. As I reflect on the experience gained over the years as Prime Minister and Minister for Finance of this beautiful country of ours, I can say with humility that I've come to understand the intensity of the many pressures and challenges, both external and internal, that the leadership of any state, and more so a small, vulnerable island developing state, has to confront on a daily basis. Madam Speaker, I dare say that in this economic environment, no leader is able to survive and remain in good stead in the eyes of the population and international community without the steadfast and loyal support of the vast majority of people, including public officers, dedicated and focused colleagues, committed friends, and well-wishers abroad. Madam Speaker, I say thanks to all of them for the continued support. Madam Speaker, stories dominating world news over the past 2 weeks related to the economic bailout of Greece and the cessation of the single largest threat to global peace, namely agreement on a new weapon and nuclear arms policy for Iran. At the regional level, however, headline news related to an averted island-wide shutdown of Barbados and continued efforts by regional governments to sustain and enhance the quality of intra-island transportation. Here in Dominica, ears were peeled in anticipation of the contents of the 2015-2016 budget and the continued efforts by government to maintain a regime of social and economic policies designed to stimulate economic activity and minimize hardship on the most vulnerable in our society. What all these headlines have in common are the pursuit, attainment, and maintenance of a satisfactory social and economic environment within which the citizens of the world, the citizens of the region, and the citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica can live and go about their daily lives. Peace, security, and quality of life for citizens, residents, and visitors, Madam Speaker, no matter how packaged or portrayed, remain key considerations of stable and progressive governments in the world today. For the government of Dominica, it is no different. We therefore approach this budget with that in mind. We did this recognizing that, notwithstanding the best efforts of world leaders, the global financial and multilateral agencies, the tailwind of the economic depression, which started 8 years ago, is still evident and impactful, influencing the pace and extent to which small, open economies, such as Dominica's, can work their way back to economic safe haven. As a democratically elected government, with a very strong mandate from the electorate of Dominica, we conceive and articulate the most imaginative and inspiring transformational and developmental policies. Timely delivery is dependent on our ability as a small, developing nation, limited in natural resources, and with a population of just over 70,000 people, to finance the implementation and maintenance of those policies. Persons not charged with the responsibility of finding the money have the luxury of dreaming large. They can sit in the comfort of their stands and say, do this and do that, never once having to bother about how it can and would be done and how it can and would be financed. But, Madam Speaker, we are mindful of the numerous requests and demands made of this government by our farmers, hoteliers, tour operators, taxi drivers, manufacturers, and others. And in an ideal world, this budget would speak to all of these. The reality is that we are constrained by limited resources, and we have to decide how best to use these resources for the benefit of all the people. So this budget, Madam Speaker, is about keeping it real. Therefore, we are not about playing to the gallery and not guarding our stumps. This government, Madam Speaker, will in this budget keep fiscal bat and pad close together. We built the new Dominica, and we have absolutely no intention of wrecking it. I wish from the outset, Madam Speaker, to deal with the issue of debt. The dreamers have sought to make heavy weather of Dominica's debt to GDP ratio. However, we all know that debt is relative. A small developing country like Dominica, with limited resources, cannot escape debt, because there are really only three known sources of revenue for a country. These are gifts and grants, which are now becoming scarce, taxes, levies, and similar impositions, which are limited in scope and capacity, and loans, which have to be repaid. The theorists have had to say, Madam Speaker, what I say as it relates to the policy of this government is that our borrowings have been measured and targeted. We have contracted loans under the most favorable terms and conditions available to any country. Anyone, Madam Speaker, wishing to criticize us should tell us whether or not the loan was necessary and how the funds could have otherwise been obtained on a timely basis. More so, they must answer the question whether this government has honored its commitments to service the loans as contracted. That, Madam Speaker, is a resounding yes. If this country borrowed money and repaid it, consistent with the terms and conditions of the loan, as we have, what then is the problem? Should we have stalled development or withheld services from our people in the name of remaining debt-free? I say no to such arguments. This government is proud of its record of debt repayment, and there is no entity in the region or the world today that would think twice about lending to Dominica. And that is the yardstick by which one ought to be judged. Some of us will know that very well, Madam Speaker. So I know the naysayers will quote the various questionable articles and reports. What I invite them to do is consult the people of Dominica and ascertain whether their lives have not been improved and the quality of their existence enhanced as a result of the policies of this government. And that, I humbly submit, Madam Speaker, is the variable that ought to be introduced into the equation. The impact of borrowings and related policies on the quality of life of residents. Today, as one scans the Dominican landscape and listens to the testimonies of many, it becomes clear that a multitude of lives have been touched for the better by the policies and programs of this government. The ground is being leveled as inequalities in the society are being removed. Many who never dreamt of owning a home now do so, with some even planning to expand on the units they probably own as a result of the housing policies of this government. Due to this government's program to eradicate pit latrines, hundreds no longer have to bear the indignity and inconvenience of struggling through the darkness of the night in rain and thunder to access toilet facilities. Parents who are unable to pay bus fares for their children to be transported to and from school are now benefiting from a school transportation program financed entirely by the government. Families who feared that they would never be able to afford to send their children to university are now able to boast that they have not only one, but sometimes 2 and 3 university graduates in their homes. All thanks to the progressive education policy of this government. Madam Speaker, the investments we have made in educating our people have been driven widely by the widely held view that education is one of the surest means of moving people out of poverty. So we are on the right track, Madam Speaker. We are on the right track. Government will continue to invest in its people, cognizant of the importance of these initiatives in achieving our economic development goals. Madam Speaker, improvements in the road infrastructure, particularly the main roads, have brought economic benefits to road users and the business community alike. The reduction in the cost associated with wear and tear on vehicles, travel time, as well as the improved quality of the produce brought to the marketplace are all substantial benefits. The agricultural sector, an important contributor to growth, has been affected by the rulings of the World Trade Organization and more recently by diseases. These have impeded progress in achieving the goals as stated in the Medium-Term Growth and Social Protection Strategy, the GSPS, namely to increase the viability and competitiveness of the sector. However, far-reaching investments in the pork and poultry subsectors, an aggressive expansion of the non-banana crops, the operationalization of the pack houses, and the implementation of the Banana Accompanying Measures BAM project bring new hope and excitement to the sector. We are committed to providing 100% access to potable water. We are on course, Madam Speaker, to complete the Bells, Penrice, Sylvania, and Layo Park water project by the end of September 2015. When we would have met well over 98.5% of our target. The remaining 1.5%, which comprises new housing development areas and areas with a few scattered houses, will be addressed by DUASCO. Madam Speaker, for years, Dominicans have been carrying the burden of high energy costs. This government took the bold initiative to develop the country's geothermal resource in the Roseau Valley. The potential of this resource has been merely spoken about for over 50 years. This has been hailed by regional international experts as the best option available to the country for producing clean, reliable, and cheaper electricity. We are on track to commission a domestic geothermal plant, which we are now advised should be completed by 2018. With this, Dominican households, and the business community will benefit from lower electricity rates. The construction of a geothermal plant will also attract new enterprises, since the viability of many businesses is affected by high cost of energy. Madam Speaker, the Aid Bank continues to support projects and sectors that are not always well served by the financial system. These include long-term projects and projects with a long lead time. The Aid Bank, along with the National Development Foundation of Dominica, the Small Business Support Agency, and the Dominica Youth Business Trust, are financial vehicles supported by government, directly providing support to the productive sectors of the economy. Madam Speaker, the results of the recent general elections reflected a resounding yes to the programs for prosperity, peace, and justice outlined in the manifesto of the Dominica Labour Party. The electorate listened, judged, and delivered an historic verdict in our favor. We wish to thank the people of Dominica for this vote of confidence. Government intends, Madam Speaker, to pursue the promise of 5 to 7% growth. We already have commitments from friendly governments for grant financing and credit facilities on highly concessionary terms. The achievement of this goal will also require renewed commitment and contribution from every citizen, as we cannot rely on our partners. In keeping with legitimate expectations of the people and the capacity of the state in this current economic environment, this budget address has been appropriately themed, keeping it real. Madam Speaker, with regards to the international and regional performance and outlook, in recent days, the global economic debate has been dominated by the events in Greece and on the potential negative impact on economies worldwide. The ongoing crisis makes it difficult for professionals to predict any particular outcomes with any large degree of certainty. Suffice it to say, Madam Speaker, any negative impact on the global economy will, over time, impact our own in some way. According to the IMF World Economic Outlook published in April 2015, and I quote, "In the aftermath of the 2008 crisis, potential growth declined in both advanced and emerging market economies. Unlike previous financial crises, the global financial crisis has been associated not only with a reduction in the level of potential output, but also with a reduction in its growth rate. In advanced economies, potential growth declined from slightly less than 2% in the pre-crisis period, that is 2006-2007, to about 1.5% during 2013-2014, owing to reduced capital growth and adverse demographic factors not related to the crisis. In emerging market economies, potential growth declined by about 2 percentage points during this period, with lower total factor productivity growth accounting for the entire decline," end of quote. The prognosis of the World Economic Outlook, published in July 2015, is not very different to the April position. The latest projection for growth for advanced economies is 2.1% for 2015. This is up from the estimate of 1.8% in 2014. The United States of America accounts for 2.5% of the projected growth for 2015. Economic growth in emerging market and developing economies is estimated at 4.2% for 2015. This is less than the estimate of 4.6% for 2014. From this group of countries, China is expected to grow by 6.8% in 2015, compared to estimated growth of 7.4% in 2014. The Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU, economic growth in 2014 is estimated at 2.9%. This is higher than the outturn for 2013, which is measured at 1.6%. It is projected that in 2015, economies of the ECCU area will grow by 2.6%. Notwithstanding the improvement in economic growth, countries continue to experience fiscal challenges. This is coupled with challenges in the financial sector that require governments to take action to preserve the banking sector. Low economic growth raises new policy challenges for all economies, as it makes it more difficult to maintain fiscal sustainability. Madam Speaker, Dominica's macroeconomic performance and outlook. In the context of the global realities, I am pleased that Dominica was able to register real growth of 3.4% in 2014. Following a 1.7% expansion in 2013. The growth result for 2014 is better than the average of 2.9% for the ECCU area. This performance resulted mainly from increased activity in public administration, education, financial intermediation, and wholesale and retail trade. Growth is projected at between 2 and 2.5% in 2015, but the activities being proposed by government are expected to take us closer to a target of 5%. Public administration accounted for 9.5% of GDP in 2014, with activity in the sector expanding by 10.7% compared to 2.2% in 2013. Growth in 2014 is reflective of public expenditure associated with the creation of employment opportunities under the National Employment Program. This program has broadened the workforce. Projections for the sector for 2015 point to a growth rate of 2.8%. Activity in the education sector expanded by 6.1% in 2014, fueled mainly by movements in private education. This subsector registered growth of 7.9%, up by 5% from the previous year's growth rate. Public education recorded growth of 2.8%, following a contraction of 2.4% in 2013. Projections for the sector suggest a further expansion of 3.2% in 2015. Madam Speaker, the contribution of the financial sector, which includes activities in the banking, credit union, and insurance subsectors, is measured as financial intermediation. That sector contributed 7.6% to GDP in 2014. Banks grew by 5.5%, and the insurance subsector grew by an estimated 1.3%. Growth of 1.8% is estimated for 2015, supported largely by activity in banking. And I see, Madam Speaker, high-powered people from the banks here, and I'm hoping that the interest rates will drop lower to benefit our citizens, Madam Speaker. So I'm happy to see them there. Because they're making money, Madam Speaker. Making money. The wholesale and retail trade sector, which accounts for 14.8% of GDP, expanded by 4.3% in 2014, following growth of 3.8% in 2013. Activity in the sector is expanded in 2015 by 3.5%, with positive movements in all subsectors. The construction sector remains a significant driver of economic activity. Gross value added in the sector increased by 9.2% in 2014, following 2 years of decline, driven primarily by public sector activity. Projections for 2015 suggest a 2% expansion in activity. Following 3 consecutive years of strong growth, output in the agricultural sector contracted by 1.4% in 2014. Of this decline, the crop subsector was 1%. The available data reflects the challenges being experienced in the banana industry, caused largely by the black sigatoka disease that resulted in a fall in production. Although other crops recorded positive growth, it was not enough to offset the decline in the bananas subsector. Activity in the livestock subsector also recorded a decline. Positive growth was recorded in the forestry subsector. Government continues to invest heavily in fighting the disease, and a turnaround in banana production is projected. Consequently, the agricultural sector is expected to rebound with a growth of 1.4% projected for 2015. In the external sector, the current account deficit remained relatively flat at 13% of GDP in 2014. The capital and financial account improved, stemming in part from inflows into the private education sector. Central government's fiscal operations resulted in a current account surplus of $2.2 million, or 0.2% of GDP. Collection of taxes on incomes and profits amounted to $59.8 million, as an increase in receipts from the collection of corporate income tax more than offset a shortfall in the revenues from withholding tax. Revenue from taxes on domestic goods and services amounted to $181 million and included positive variances in both VAT and excise tax. Receipts from taxes on international trade and transactions amounted to $63.8 million, reflecting increases in all categories. Property tax collection is estimated at $7.6 billion, which is lower than the budget of $8 million. Receipts from non-tax revenue items were less than budgeted. Government remains prudent in the management of the country's limited financial resources. To this end, tight expenditure controls are maintained in spite of pressure from external shocks and natural disasters. Preliminary numbers suggest that total expenditure for the fiscal year 2014-2015, net of debt amortization and net lending, totaled $467.6 million, $354.5 million in recurrent expenditure, net of debt amortization, and $113.1 million in capital expenditure, exclusive of net lending. Higher outlays on recurrent expenditure reflect the payment of the 5% salary increase and the concomitant retroactive payments to public officers. Expenditure on goods and services was $1.8 million more than budgeted. Interest payments exceeded budget by $0.7 million. Capital spending for fiscal year 2014-2015 fell short of original budget estimates. The budget for the year was $173.8 million, whereas preliminary estimates suggest a total outlay of $113.6 million, with grants accounting for 39.1% of the total. A number of challenges with delays in disbursements and extended preparatory works accounted for the capital program not being fully implemented. Net lending is estimated at $0.5 million. Overall, government's fiscal operations have resulted in a deficit of $50.3 million. The primary balance is estimated at a minus 1.8% of GDP, falling short of the estimated budget outturn of 1% of GDP. Madam Speaker, at the end of the financial year, June 30, 2015, total public sector disbursed outstanding debt stood at $1,047.9 million, consisting of external debt of $739.3 million and domestic debt of $308.6 million. Central government debt accounted for $876 million, of which $616.5 million is external debt and $259.3 million is domestic debt. Government guaranteed debt was $171.9 million. Debt amortization was $41.2 million, while disbursements were $21 million. Most of the disbursements came from external creditors, and the funds were mainly used for infrastructural projects. No new loans were contracted by government during the fiscal year. However, a loan of $4.5 million was guaranteed for Duasco related to the Bells, Penrise, Sylvania, Layu Park water project. Central government interest payments for the year under review were $23.9 million. Total public sector disbursed outstanding debt to GDP was 72.9%. Total debt service, interest and amortization to current revenue for central government was 18.3%. Government issued quarterly treasury bills of $20 million and 2 5-year bonds of $15.1 million and $25 million respectively on the Regional Government Securities Market, RGSM. The last treasury bill issued on 29th June 2015 was oversubscribed by $19.8 million, Madam Speaker. The interest rate obtained was 0.98%. Madam Speaker, this is an interest rate less than 1%. The lowest rate that has been obtained on the RGSM for the year so far. This speaks volumes about the confidence that investors have in the policies and the competence of this government, Madam Speaker. Additionally, there was private placement of bonds totaling $10.4 million. Estimates of revenue and expenditure 2015-2016. Madam Speaker, I now present the budget proposals for the 2015-2016 fiscal year. Total revenues estimated for the 2015-2016 fiscal year are in the aggregate of $563 million, while total expenditure, inclusive of debt amortization, is projected to be in the sum of $551.4 million. Recurrent expenditure, net of debt amortization, is in the sum of $367.2 million. Capital expenditure is in the sum of $184.2 million. The amount of $38.4 million is estimated for debt amortization and sinking fund. A current account surplus of $53.7 million is anticipated for the year. With regards to the financing of the budget, Madam Speaker, the above-mentioned expenditure will be financed as follows. Recurrent revenue of $420.4 million. Local capital revenue in the amount of $5.1 million. Grants in the amount of $104.4 million. And loans of $33.1 million. Grants are expected mostly from the following sources. The European Union, under the banner Accompanying Measures, BAM, and the 10th EDF Program of Assistance, the government of the People's Republic of China, the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the government of Mexico, and the CDB, under the Basic Needs Trust Fund. Table 1 of the printed text shows the overall summary for the fiscal year 2015-2016, with comparative budget figures for the preceding year. Recurrent revenue, Madam Speaker. The components of current revenue are shown in Table 2 of the printed text. Madam Speaker, taxes on domestic goods and services continue to be the largest contributor to recurrent revenue and are estimated at $187.9 million, or 44.7% of the total. This includes $128.5 million from the value-added tax. The sum of $36 million and $28.5 million, respectively, are expected from personal income tax and from taxes on enterprises, that is, corporate tax and withholding tax. The sum of $68 million is being estimated as revenues from taxes on international trade and transactions. Non-tax revenue is expected to contribute $92.1 million, of which revenue from the Citizenship by Investment program will contribute $70 million. With regards to the recurrent expenditure, the total amount budgeted for recurrent expenditure, inclusive of interest and debt amortization, is $405.5 million. This compares to $378.5 million for the previous fiscal year, 2014-2015. Recurrent expenditure, net of debt amortization, is estimated at $367.2 million. Table 3 of the printed text shows the distribution of expenditure by ministry and department. Madam Speaker, the budget for the Ministry of Finance in the sum of $114.2 million includes an amount of $63.3 million which is being appropriated for payment of interest and for debt amortization. The amount of $29 million is provisioned for retiring benefits to be paid to former public officers, as well as to meet payment of non-contributory pension benefits to senior citizens over the age of 70 years. The Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development will receive the second highest allocation of $66.8 million, or 16.5% of the recurrent budget. The Ministry of Justice, Immigration, and National Security will receive an allocation of $46.3 million, or 11.4% of the total, while the Ministry of Health and the Environment and the Ministry of Public Works and Ports will receive $52.1 million and $33 million, respectively. Madam Speaker, Table 4 of the printed text provides a summary of recurrent expenditure by economic classification. Madam Speaker, personal emoluments consisting of salaries, wages, and allowances total $157.4 million, or 39% of the recurrent expenditure budget. Goods and services account for $102.3 million, or 25% of the total. The provision for interest payments is $25.5 million, or 6%, while debt amortization and sinking fund contributions account for $38.4 million, or 9%. The sum of $79 million, or 19%, is estimated for transfers and subsidies, inclusive of retiring benefits. With regards to capital estimate, the revenue is estimated at $5.1 million. This amount will be raised mostly from the sale of government land. Capital expenditure. The Public Sector Investment Program, PSIP, is one medium through which government contributes to economic growth. For fiscal year 2015-2016, the capital program is $184.2 million, funded as follows. Local funds of $51.7 million, loans of $33.1 million, and grants of $99.4 million. The fact that more than 50% of the capital program is financed by grants in a period when grants are becoming scarce is testament to this government's success in developing foreign relations that redound to the benefit of the entire country. For this, we would like to extend, Madam Speaker, our gratitude to our bilateral and multilateral partners for the continued generosity to our country. The capital budget reveals that loans are generally contracted to undertake critical physical infrastructure. So, Madam Speaker, I need to point out that there are a few projects that were regular items on the capital program, which have now moved to the recurrent budget. They all started as a project, but have now become regular operational activities for the respective ministries. This includes, for example, repairs to health centers and police stations, and also repairs to schools across the island. Table 6 of the printed text shows the allocation of the capital budget by ministry. Madam Speaker, later in this address, I will focus on some of those strategic investments that form part of the public sector investment program. But at this time, I will give an overview of some of the other key projects. Madam Speaker, in this fiscal year, the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management will receive $16.7 million, representing 9.1% of the capital expenditure allocation. Government's investments in the housing sector through various components of the housing revolution have been expansive. This year, the ministry will continue to focus on the construction of low-income houses, housing infrastructure, and improvement in sanitation. The Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development will receive an amount of $8.1 million, or 44.4% of the capital budget. The Newton Primary School is expected to be ready for operation in September 2015. The provision of this new facility will improve education outcomes for the students attending this school. In that regard, we express our gratitude to the government and people of the People's Republic of China. During this fiscal year, an additional classroom block will be constructed for Dominica Grammar School. The community of Tibo will also witness the construction of a new primary school. Rehabilitation works will be undertaken on the Roosevelt Douglas Primary School, the Sineku Primary School, and the Salibia Primary School. Design work for the construction of a new Goodwill Secondary School and a new Calabishi Primary School will also begin. The allocation of $7 million for the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Constituency Empowerment in this fiscal year is geared towards improvements in sports facilities in a number of communities around Dominica. Progress is being made on the designs and other preparatory works for the new indoor sports facility, which is to be located at Stockford. Maintenance work will be done on the Windsor Park Stadium, and additional works will be done to establish the Roseau Recreational Facility. A major project to provide lighting to playing fields around the island will be undertaken. 20 playing fields will be lit for the first time, while the lighting at 4 others will be improved. In keeping the government's policy to encourage the use of renewable energy, the new lighting systems will utilize solar energy and light-emitting diode, the LED bulbs. This undertaking will allow for more extended use of playing fields and contribute to ongoing efforts to encourage our citizens to stay physically fit and healthy. The Ministry of Social Services, Family and Gender Affairs will receive $5.1 million, most of which will finance projects under the Basic Needs Trust Fund, BNTF program. The program continues to respond to the basic needs of a large number of communities island-wide. An amount of $4 million has been allocated to the Ministry of Justice, Immigration and National Security to meet payments for the improvements to border management. Work has been substantially completed on the new police stations at Laplane and Calibishi, and this will be formally commissioned during the year. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, the police officers are now occupying those new police stations, Madam Speaker. Renovation of the police barracks at Monbrose will also be brought to completion. Work has started, work will continue, and work will be completed on the police barracks at Monbrose. Modernization of the registry continues with the digital conversion of the registry archives. This year, we'll also see the launch of phase 1 of the law revision project. Madam Speaker, the Office of the Prime Minister will receive during this fiscal year $1.5 million to continue providing support to persons in need. This facility is a fast response mechanism to address areas such as medical emergencies and other social challenges. Provision is being made for the conduct of a new country poverty assessment, CPA, to be funded by the Caribbean Development Bank. The CPA is expected to be carried out during the calendar year 2016 and will provide new data to inform policy and decision making. The Ministry of Kalinago Affairs will receive an allocation of $2 million to undertake continued development in the Kalinago community. The Kalinago Community Project will continue with funding from the CDB. Work will also be done to the Jolly John Pavilion, a Kalinago monument, and the new Kalinago Council building. Much has been said about the need for seed funding for small enterprise development in the Kalinago community. This year, an amount of $0.5 million has been allocated for that purpose. The details of the operations of this facility will be worked out in collaboration with the Kalinago people to find the best model to deliver quality service to our indigenous people. Small and medium-sized enterprises form the core of the private sector in Dominica. These businesses contribute to overall economic development by providing goods and services as well as employment opportunities. Government will continue to pay close attention to the needs of this segment of the private sector and has allocated during this fiscal year an amount of $3.4 million to provide for small business enterprise development and the development of rural business enterprise centers. The intention is to build more sustainable businesses, particularly in the rural areas. Madam Speaker, in this fiscal year, the Ministry of Information, Science, Telecommunications and Technology will receive $0.5 million to bring to completion the ICT Center of Excellence. It is envisaged that the new center will encourage young people and business owners to make greater use of and take full advantage of the opportunities that ICT can offer for employment and improvement in business efficiency. We are grateful to the Government of India for the support provided to this project. Now, I want to recognize the efforts of my colleague, Honorable Kelvadaru, and the leadership which he provides in this area. Madam Speaker, earlier I made reference to government's target of growing the economy by 5 to 7%. I should remind all Dominicans that government is using the tried and tested formula of economic growth as a means of combating unemployment and reducing poverty. I will now highlight the flagship projects and investments that will be critical to keeping us on the path to achieve this target. These interventions will not only increase the number of available jobs, but will also have a positive impact on the performance of the private sector as a result of an increase in local purchase. Madam Speaker, in fiscal year 2015-2016, government's plan is to maintain agriculture as the leading contributor to economic growth. The Ministry of Agriculture will be focused on training existing farmers and new entrants into the sector so that productivity, and quality levels can be improved to meet the requirements of both the domestic and export markets. With regards to bananas, Madam Speaker, following 2 years of treating the black sigatoka disease, which severely reduced banana production, recovery of the crop is progressing satisfactorily. The continued recovery will be led by the introduction of 65,000 tissue culture plantlets, which were sourced externally. We are in receipt of the first shipment of 25,000 plantlets, and 2 shipments of 20,000 plantlets each will be received in this fiscal year. The plantlets received have been hardened and weaned at the Portsmouth Agricultural Station, and distribution to 29 farmers has commenced. The farmers are located in Castle Bruce, Calibishi, Woodfordale, Wesley, Rosalie, La Plaine, La Croix, and Londonderry. They were selected in collaboration with the Dominica National Fair Trade Organization. The criteria for the selection are their history of consistently adhering to good agronomic practices, outstanding overall management of the farms, willingness to take advice, and to participate in training in recommended agricultural practices. The intention, Madam Speaker, is to target no less than 100 farmers under the program. Those farmers have all been identified. 2 acres each on the La Plaine and Woodfordale agricultural stations will be used for the propagation of plantlets. The Ministry of Agriculture estimates that each plant will be able to generate up to 10 followers in 6-month cycles, thereby reducing on the need to import additional plantlets. This new planting material will be distributed to farmers. Barring the occurrence of adverse events, it is further estimated that within 2 to 3 years, approximately 1,300 acres of new bananas will be established. The average yield is expected to be 7 tons per acre. Thus, overall output by that time is expected to be 9,100 tons of bananas. The efficient production of bananas requires, on average, 3 workers for every acre. Madam Speaker, in order to meet the production targets I have enunciated, it is essential that fertilizer be available to the farmers year-round. To this end, the Dominica Export Agency, DEXIA, has been mandated to import fertilizer, which will be sold to farmers at a discounted price. The intention is to establish a revolving fund to maintain adequate supply on the island. As a matter of fact, DEXIA has in fact brought in a shipment of fertilizer under this new program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with regards to planting, there has been an ongoing robust recovery of plantain cultivation, particularly in the south and southeast, following a rapid decline in production due to the black sigatoka disease. It is conservatively estimated that over 400 acres are currently cultivated nationally, yielding approximately 6,000 tons. In the 2015-2016 fiscal year, 300 acres of tissue culture plants will be established. This is expected to yield an additional 4,500 tons of plantain. Plantain farmers will also benefit from the year-round availability of fertilizer. Farmers cultivating less than 2 acres of the crop tend mainly to utilize family labor. It is estimated that the acreage to be established will create approximately 50 new jobs for our citizens. Madam Speaker, coffee. The equipment for the coffee plant constructed at the 1 Mile in Portsmouth has been received and installed. Work is currently in progress to install a transformer at the plant. It is anticipated that when fully operational, 22 new jobs for skilled and unskilled workers would have been created. In that regard, 5 people were trained in Venezuela and will soon take up full-time employment at the plant. On the supply side, Madam Speaker, the Division of Agriculture has identified 400 farmers currently growing coffee or who are interested in growing the crop. The farmers are concentrated in Syndicate, Salisbury Heights, Opita, Granford, Layo Park, Warner, Penville, Soufriere, and Bellevue-Chopin. In the fiscal year, 80 acres of coffee now in production will be maintained, 50 acres will be rehabilitated, and 100 new acres established. Arrangements are in place to propagate the seedlings required to meet the new production target. Madam Speaker, coffee takes 3 to 5 years to begin bearing berries. Therefore, it will take some time for the increase in output to be visible. In the interim, Madam Speaker, coffee beans will be imported from Alba countries to start the processing. Already, 2,000 tons of coffee have been received. We wish to express our gratitude to the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela for the gift of this coffee plant. Madam Speaker, government has been engaged in an island-wide rehabilitation of cocoa over the last 3 years. Maintenance of the 350 acres already rehabilitated will continue. 100 acres are targeted for rehabilitation in the new fiscal year, and 50 new acres will be established. Dominica has earned a reputation for producing excellent quality cocoa, which attracts a premium price on the international market. We intend to uphold that reputation. To this end, government has invested in a centralized fermentation and drying facility to ensure that processing of the beans for a top quality marketable product. With respect to citrus, Madam Speaker, the topography and climatic conditions of Dominica make the country ideal for the cultivation of citrus. Dominica was actually once the biggest producer of limes in the world. We were displaced from this position of prominence due to disease and natural disasters. The ongoing programs for citrus focuses on rehabilitation. In the fiscal year, 350 acres will be rehabilitated, thereby increasing the acreage of bearing trees to 1,100. With regards to poultry and pork, Madam Speaker, one of the objectives of government in enhancing food and nutrition security is to make the country self-sufficient in the production of pork and poultry. This objective is being pursued through 2 major initiatives, one being the construction of a national abattoir, and the other is to provide financing to existing and potential farmers through the Agricultural Investment Unit, the AIU. We are aware that a number of poultry farmers have upgraded their farms in anticipation of the opening of the abattoir. We can now assure them that the contractor has confirmed that the abattoir will be commissioned and handed over by the end of September of this year. Madam Speaker, the AIU has provided financing to 45 farmers to establish or upgrade their farms. There is heightened interest in the production of pork and poultry. The production strategy being pursued aims in the first year at increasing the annual output of saleable meat from 186 pounds to 915,200 pounds, Madam Speaker. This represents just 12% of the total import of poultry in 2012, which was 77.4 million pounds. The livestock unit has estimated that 200 birds be required to achieve the output we're targeting in the first instance, Madam Speaker. 200,000 birds. 200,000 birds. Madam Speaker, a survey carried out earlier this year by the Livestock Unit to determine the number and capacity of commercial pig farmers found that there were 44 farmers fitting this description. In this particular situation, a commercial farmer is defined as one for a minimum of 6 sows. The unit has estimated that the local demand for pork is approximately 1.1 million pounds annually. Approximately 50% of this demand is being produced locally. The strategy being pursued, therefore, is to double local production in order to satisfy fully the estimated market requirement. The existing 44 farmers will form the core for doubling the output of pork. They have the basic infrastructure in place and commitment to succeed in the industry. However, some key interventions are necessary, and the delivery will be led by the livestock unit. This will cover training to improve husbandry, improving the gene stock, intensifying the feeding regime, and upgrading the pens where necessary. Small ruminants, particularly sheep and goats, make up an important source of protein for Dominicans. The Ministry of Agriculture is also making investments to enhance the quality of the stock on the island. Work is therefore in progress to improve breeding capabilities by introducing artificial insemination and embryo transfer, and to train farmers in the recommended practices in efficient small ruminant production. Madam Speaker, with the construction of the abattoir and the other investments we have made, we have created the platform to take advantage of a huge domestic market available for pork and poultry products. At the end of the day, the success of this will depend on the consumption practices and attitudes and the choice we make whether to buy local or imported. With regards to tourism and urban renewal, Madam Speaker, the transformation of the city of Roseau and the town of Portsmouth into modern urban centers remains a top priority of government. On June 5th this year, the contract for the design of the Roseau Enhancement Project and the Cabridge-Portsmouth Road Realignment Project was signed. NSG Management and Technical Services Limited, which was initially engaged on 16th March 2014, is now focusing on the designs of the projects. Phase 1 of the Roseau Enhancement Project includes the replacing of the West Bridge and the rehabilitation of Independence Street, to include improvements to drainage, sidewalks, underground cabling of utility lines, and resealing of the roadway. Works estimated at $21.5 million will be undertaken during the fiscal year 2015-2016, and the necessary budgetary provisions have been made. The commencement of construction is targeted for the third quarter of the fiscal year. A complementary project for enhancing the capital city is the Roseau River Promenade. The construction of the northern river wall was completed earlier this year. The next phase of the project is the construction of the southern river wall and a boardwalk. A site has been identified for the relocation of the bus stands along the riverbank. Madam Speaker, government supports efforts aimed at increasing the number of export-ready rooms and is partnering with the private sector to improve the hotel plant on the country. There is much interest in the real estate option of the Citizenship by Investment program and the opportunity it provides to investors interested in constructing high-quality rooms in Dominica. 160 rooms are expected to be constructed in the Cabridge under the Range Kempinski Hotel development. 2 other tourism infrastructure projects have received approval in principle, and these are currently being further assessed. with a view to granting full approval. The two projects which have been approved in principle are the construction of a hotel in Pica, which will consist of 201 rooms, and another at Grand Savant, Salisbury, with a room complement of 73. These additional projects are also being reviewed, with one being a hotel project in the Suffolk area, which will consist of 90 rooms. The completion of the Cabbage Hotel and Spa, funded jointly by the Government of the Kingdom of Morocco and the Government of Dominica, will add 68 rooms to the hotel stock. All of these new hotels will create significant direct employment opportunities in construction, provision of hotel services, and other indirect jobs in support sectors like agriculture and fishing. Madam Speaker, representatives of the Dominica Hotel and Tourism Association, DHT, requested a review of the fiscal incentive regime, under which concessions are granted to investors. The DHT has submitted a list of the measures which it identified as critical and necessary to increasing investments in the sector, ensuring profitability of tourism enterprises, guaranteeing quality service delivery, and safeguarding sustainable jobs. I can report that a committee comprising representatives of both the private and public sectors deliberated on these matters and submitted recommendations for the consideration of the government. As a result of these deliberations, Cabinet approved a number of new concessions to the hotel sector. These include the following: amendments to the VAT Act to include the exemption of VAT on meals to hotel resort employees provided free of charge. This matter was strongly put forward by the private sector as necessary for ensuring quality service. Amendments to the VAT Act to zero-rate complimentary rooms provided by hotels and resorts for select approved marketing activities. Amendments to the VAT Act to include exemptions on capital goods for mixed-use resorts developments, where part of the development will occur after the commencement of operations. This means that for a hotel which is being constructed in phases, a VAT exemption will be enjoyed on those phases not yet completed, even when the completed phases are in operation. This will apply to approved developments. Amendments to the Income Tax Act to accommodate exemptions on withholding tax on rental income of villa owners for a period of 10 years. The villa must be held for at least 3 years before change of ownership. This will apply, again, Madam Speaker, to approved developments. Amendments to the Income Tax Act for an exemption from the payment of income tax on the rental income on villas for a period of 10 years. The villa must be held for at least 3 years before change of ownership. Introduction of a residential levy of $2,000 per annum on all villa owners. This levy applies only to villas in approved developments. New legislation will be introduced in Parliament to allow for the sale of timeshare, condominium, and fractional ownership. Amendment to the Alien Landholding License Act 17 of 1995 to reflect the following fee structure for approved developments. In place of the license fee of 10% of the market value of the subject of the license, a flat fee of $5,000 will be applied, in addition to an application fee of $1,000. Approved developments are defined as proposals that meet the requirements outlined in the Hotels Aid Act, with a minimum investment of $3 million EC. Such projects should commence construction within 1 year following the approval by the Physical Planning Division. Failure to begin within the stipulated time without a reasonable excuse will result in a penalty of $2,000. Amendment to Section 8 of the Stamp Act, Chapter 6801. A definition of the term related parties is to be included in the Act to provide for transfer between an individual to a company where the individual owns at least 25% of the shares of that company, and transfer from a first company to a second company where the first company owns at least 25% of the shares of the second company. Further, there will be a reduction in fees to encourage transfers between related parties as well as in new qualifying projects. The changes in fees are as follows. Stamp duty reduced to 2.5% from 4%. Vendor's fee reduced to 0% from 2.5%. Judicial fee reduced to 1% from 2.5%. And there's no change to the assurance fund of 1%. The above shall apply to new qualifying projects except the vendor's fee, which shall remain at 2.5%. It is expected that the legislative amendments required will be submitted for the consideration of the Parliament shortly. So, Madam Speaker, this is an exhaustive list of measures to benefit the tourism industry and create more jobs in the economy. I believe we may have approved every request made by the DHTA in that regard, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the new Minister of Tourism, Honorable Tong, for his leadership and guidance in that regard. Madam Speaker, improved air access remains a priority for this government. We must be in a position to bring in the visitors who will fill the new rooms that have been constructed. And so we continue to work with major airlines to get the best schedule for Dominica. Simultaneously, we continue discussions with an interested firm from China for the construction of the international airport. I can confirm that the team has visited the proposed site, Madam Speaker, and is now preparing concept drawings and undertaking the economic and financial analysis. There have been numerous requests for greater visibility of Dominica in the marketplace. While this is necessary, we must also optimize the return from every dollar spent on marketing. The Ministry of Tourism has been mandated to do a complete examination of the marketing strategy with a view to ensuring that we get the best value for money. The Ministry has already engaged the private sector stakeholders on the matter of the preparation of the marketing strategy. With that in mind, Madam Speaker, the tourism marketing budget will be increased by $2 million to $6 million. Madam Speaker, the program outlined for the tourism sector seeks to address the important components of a comprehensive strategy to grow the sector. We expect to see the measures taken redound to the benefit of the people of Dominica. We expect each stakeholder to contribute to the growth of the sector. Stakeholders are reminded that the sustainability of tourism depends on visitors having a good experience, and as such, we must deliver the best service possible. Our service delivery should be no less than first class. We must be organized, diligent, and punctual, and must adhere to the rules and procedures set out to properly regulate the sector. Madam Speaker, with regards to road infrastructure, government continues its program of road development and improvement across the country. Everyone appreciates the value of good and durable roads, both in terms of their economic importance and in the comfort they afford travelers. Government plans to continue the rehabilitation and upgrade of all roads along the east and southeast coast so that the major road network in the country will be second to none. A contract has been signed for the Bois-Diab to Point Pilat segment, which will include erection of a new bridge over the White River, with funding provided by the European Union. Other segments to include the Dubic Cliff stabilization and roadworks will be funded under the Disaster Vulnerable Reduction Project, DVRP. We have also begun discussions with a friendly government to obtain the financing required to undertake similar works on the Poncaste to Castlebush Road, as well as from Castlebush through the Canalago territory to Hatton Garden. These works will result in a completely new road network in the east of Dominica. And I'm saying, Madam Speaker, I'm saying that this government will bring some of the best roads we have seen to the east of Dominica. Because I believe we have to address the concerns of the roads in the east in a comprehensive manner, Madam Speaker. And people of the east, rest assured that this government shall deliver on its promise to you in short order, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, rehabilitation of the valley roads started with the upgrade of the main artery from Bath Estate to Loda. In this year, the process will continue, with major rehabilitation scheduled to begin on the Wharton-Waven-Copthall Road. This work will be undertaken in phases. Also, the rehabilitation of the Stock Farm Road will be undertaken. Several other community-based roads will be rehabilitated during the year. Madam Speaker, budgetary allocation has been made for the rehabilitation of farm access and feeder roads on the island. In this fiscal year, work on a number of important feeder roads will be funded by the Government of Dominica and under the BAM accompanying measures, Madam Speaker. Farmers are urged to show greater responsibility and form farmers' organizations that will take on the responsibility to upkeep these roads. It is expected that 72.3 kilometers of feeder roads will be rehabilitated. Driving at night will be made safer and more comfortable with the installation of additional solar and LED lights along the main roads. This will commence in the new fiscal year with the lighting of the Dr. Nicholas Liverpool and the Edward Oliver Leblanc highways. This project is possible because of a gift of 2,500 LED solar-powered streetlights, valued at approximately $9 million from the government of the People's Republic of China. This is another gift from the PRC in the context of strengthening mutual cooperation and support to address the adverse effects of climate change. The project will be implemented over a 3-year period. Madam Speaker, geothermal. For the past few years, government has been investing in the development of our country's geothermal resource. As a result of our efforts, 1 production well and 2 reinjection wells have been drilled. The production well will be used to generate electricity for the domestic power plant. Consumers are expected to benefit from lower cost of energy using geothermal energy. Within the next 2 months, we expect to conclude negotiations with the French Investment Consortium, who are partnering with us in a joint venture to build and operate the domestic plant and the plant to export electricity to Guadeloupe and Martinique. The Geothermal Development Bill, a critical piece of legislation to facilitate investment in geothermal energy, has been drafted and will be tabled in Parliament by the end of September 2015. Funding has been identified for the construction of the domestic plant. Both the World Bank and the Agence Française de Développement, AFD, have offered financing under the highly concessional terms, and discussions in that regard are ongoing. Madam Speaker, the World Bank came here to Dominica to offer us money to finance the small plant. There was a presentation to the Cabinet, but we have a situation where the Agence Française de Développement is also offering us money to finance this plant. So what we're doing now, Madam Speaker, is that we have held back our application to the World Bank, and we are negotiating for the best terms possible to borrow this money. So I believe in the next few weeks, Madam Speaker, we'll be in a position to determine whether we go with the World Bank or we go with the AFD, based on the best terms of lending that we can receive from these institutions, Madam Speaker. So at the end of the day, that will play an important role in the cost of the geothermal plant, and of course, the resultant cost of the energy to the consumers in Dominica. So had it not been for our negotiations with these two firms, we would have been even more advanced with regards to the construction of the geothermal plant. So construction work on the domestic plant should commence in 2016, with commissioning of the plant planned for 2018. Madam Speaker, regards to employment creation, a number of measures have been already highlighted. These are designed to stimulate economic growth, resulting in job creation and generating employment opportunities. This is all geared at achieving prosperity for our citizens. The introduction of the real estate option under the Citizenship by Investment program, for example, is not an end in itself. It is meant to create long-term job opportunities, not only in the establishments which are built, but also in those sectors which will provide support, services, and goods. The investment in agriculture will create employment opportunities, particularly in the rural community. The investment in abattoir is targeted at food security, but also at creating job opportunities. The goal of geothermal development is to provide a cheaper source of energy, which is necessary for developing industry and creating employment. Madam Speaker, each strategic investment mentioned earlier will increase the number of available jobs in the economy. The assessment so far is that during the fiscal year, the following direct jobs are being created, Madam Speaker. We're talking about 250 jobs in the banana and plantain industry, for example. 28 skilled and unskilled workers will be engaged in the abattoir. 22 workers will be engaged full-time at the coffee plant. 46 poultry farmers will now have sustained employment. 500 workers will be engaged in the construction of the Range Kempinski Hotel, which will commence in this fiscal year, Madam Speaker. Placement for 13 new graduates on the National Employment Program and continuing engagement of over 400 interns. 10 full-time employees will be engaged in the pack houses, and additional officers will be taken on in a part-time basis based on the level of activity. In addition to those highlighted, we expect that the investments being made will create additional jobs. Having set the platform for the jobs to be created, government is empowering other institutions to give support to those who wish to create employment opportunities. Reference is made to the funding made available to the Aid Bank, the Dominica Youth Business Trust, and the National Development Foundation of Dominica to on-lend to qualifying businesses. A number of small and micro businesses will continue to receive technical and financial support from government's Small Business Support Unit. Madam Speaker, the National Employment Program was introduced in December 2013 with the purpose of enhancing the employment opportunities of the unemployed and the underemployed by placing them in a work environment where they would acquire the skills and attitudes that are necessary to obtain and to hold on to a job. After a year and 7 months, Madam Speaker, the NEP has made significant strides, exceeding the initial projection of job placements from 400 to a peak of 1,499 in the following year. Some said, Madam Speaker, it will have been for a few months, but now, a year and 7 months later, the NEP is standing strong, Madam Speaker. So, persons were placed on on-the-job training, opportunities for individuals who have completed skill-based training to gain job experience in the service and trade sectors, graduate internships, education mentorship, after-school support assistance to preschools and libraries, community employment, cleanup and beautification, farming, care to the elderly and disabled, school feeding program, and community tourism. The establishment of the NEP also allowed for an increase in productivity in all sectors through the provision of skills and competencies and increased human resource capacity within the public and private sector. All the interns were assessed and based on their performance were either renewed or discontinued. The experience gained from this program has been varied, but I am happy to say, Madam Speaker, that the performance for most of the interns has been satisfactory. It is a tribute to the program that we have a cohort of young people who are well trained to grasp the job opportunities mentioned earlier. I want to place on record my own appreciation and that of the government to all the private sector entities who partner with us to provide opportunities for our young people. Madam Speaker, some of the NEP trainees have found suitable job placements, and we expect that others will do so. Government will be continuing the program in the new year, and budgetary allocation has been made. Madam Speaker, the music industry holds tremendous opportunity for job creation. We believe, however, that our music professionals must raise the standard and quality of their product. The government is committed to assist in that effort, and to that end has decided to set aside the sum of $500,000 from the Public Support Program to address a range of issues confronting the industry. We intend to work with the music professionals to draw up a strategy for the industry. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, just 2 days ago I met with the music professionals, and I must say they're very, very talented, very, very intelligent people with great ideas. And I believe that there's much more we can do to take advantage of the huge music industry that we have in this world. And government will assist in that regard. But I want to place on public record, Madam Speaker, my own appreciation to Mr. Daryl Bob for assisting with the coordination of the music professionals in Dominica, whom we met on Wednesday night at the Stadium Conference Room. Madam Speaker, the Citizenship by Investment Program. Madam Speaker, Citizenship by Investment Program are not new and are becoming increasingly popular as they provide opportunity to attract investors and increase foreign direct investment. It is also a means to raise revenue without added taxation burdens on citizens. The reforms that I mentioned in the budget address of 2014 have taken place and include the approval of revised legislation to guide the administration of the program. New offices have been set up and the staffing has been increased. Madam Speaker, I previously referenced the progress being made with the projects being considered under the real estate option of the program. The interest in Dominica's program has grown, and government, in partnership with a marketing firm, has been engaged in several promotional events in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. As a result of these marketing initiatives, it is expected that the number of applicants to the program will increase. We are preparing for that eventuality and have improved the process by which applications are received. The due diligence process has been strengthened, and we have also increased the number of firms that are engaged to provide the service. In other words, Madam Speaker, even as the program expands, its quality will not be compromised. Its integrity will not be compromised, Madam Speaker. It is also necessary that the fees and the level of investment be reviewed periodically. The structure will always ensure that our program is competitive. At the same time, the investment levels should be such that the program will continue to attract only credible investors and applicants. Based on a recent assessment, the following is the structure of the investments into the Economic Development Fund. US $175,000 for a single applicant, US $225,000 for an applicant and spouse, US $225,000 for an applicant and up to 2 children below 18 years of age, US $250,000 for applicant plus spouse and up to 2 children below the age of 18 years, and US $50,000 for any additional dependent on the main applicant or the other spouse, other than the spouse. With the exception of the US $50,000 for any additional dependent of the main applicant other than a spouse, which currently exists, the other fees will come into effect in August 2016. In addition, the following new fees will come into effect from 1st September 2015. Due diligence fee for the spouse is US $7,500. Due diligence fee for dependent above the age of 16 is US $4,000. Due diligence for dependent between the age of 12 and 16 is US $2,000. Processing fee is US $3,000. Fee for certificate of naturalization, including stamp fees, is US $750 per person. Cost of expedited process for passport application is US $1,200. And is expected, Madam Speaker, with regards to the expedited processing of passport, that some of the monies raised will go towards improving on border security arrangements, Madam Speaker, with regards to our passport, reading our passports. Investing in the health of the population. Madam Speaker, in the fiscal year 2015-2016, the Ministry of Health and the Environment will receive $19.5 million. This figure represents 10.6% of the capital estimate. The largest amount from this allocation goes towards the construction of the new National Hospital. Much has been said about this project, Madam Speaker. Suffice it to say that this is a government that upholds its commitment to the Dominican people. And as such, this facility will be constructed to meet as many of our health needs as possible. Government has benefited from the support of the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO, in determining the type of facility that is suitable to Dominica. We have therefore delayed implementation so as to ensure that a number of important recommendations were factored into the designs. With this major national health facility, when this major national health facility is complete, our people will enjoy the security of 21st century healthcare in a state-of-the-art facility manned by trained health personnel. The government of Dominica, in partnership with the government of the Republic of Cuba, has embarked on a program by which a number of medical doctors will be trained in various specialty areas. Commencing September 2015, 4 medical doctors will pursue specialty training, 1 each in cardiology, urology, geriatrics, and intensive care. These officers are expected to complete their course of study by 2019. By January 2016, 5 Dominican medical doctors will have completed training in specialty areas as follows: 2 officers in internal medicine, and 1 in infectious and tropical diseases, orthopedics, and traumatology and pediatrics. By June 2016, 1 officer will complete training in hematology and medical oncology. In addition to the construction, so Madam Speaker, we are training our people. That's right. We are ensuring that when the new hospital comes, there will be Dominicans who are fully trained to provide the services to our people. Because there is a strategic plan to this matter, Madam Speaker. There's a strategic plan towards addressing the health concerns in Dominica. In addition to the construction of a new hospital, government will continue to invest in healthcare facilities at the community level. During the financial year, Madam Speaker, preliminary work will be done towards the construction of the new hospital. The rehabilitation work at the Regional Armor Hospital at Portsmouth will continue. A new health center will be built in Vekas, and some work will be undertaken on the Newtown Health Center. Repairs to other health centers will be undertaken where necessary, with allocation made available for that purpose in the recurrent budget. The new National Hospital will be fully equipped with the state-of-the-art equipment. However, government will provide some of the equipment needed even while construction of the new hospital facilities is ongoing. Additional equipment will be made available to the primary healthcare facilities to broaden the range of services available at that level. Madam Speaker, I want again to place on record our appreciation and gratitude to the government and people of the People's Republic of China. And to thank in particular His Excellency, or the Ambassador, Ambassador Lee, for his exceptional support in that effort. Madam Speaker, thank you in China is Sheshe. So I want to say Sheshe, Ambassador. Mr. Linton, you can't speak Chinese, no? No. You can speak Koko either. Justice and peace, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, justice and peace will not exist without good laws. These laws must be relevant to the needs of the country and accessible to those who need to use them. A general revision of the laws of our country represents an authoritative statement of the written laws of the country up to a specific date. Since the last general revision that brought into operation the 1990 revised edition of the laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, numerous laws have been added to the statute books of Dominica. Many of these have been amendments to existing laws, as well as new laws that have repealed and replaced existing laws, or that have been enacted to cover new subject areas. Government has re-established a Law Commission office and has appointed a Law Revision Commission to undertake the revision process. When the revision is complete, a new revised edition of the laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica will be published in loose leaf form. The laws will also be available on CD-ROM as well as online. Thereafter, the Law Commission Office will be mandated to produce biennial supplement pages and update CD-ROMs of the laws of Dominica for sale. To further facilitate the revision, government will soon bring to the House of Assembly 3 short amendment bills to address a few minor but necessary amendments. The amendments will be to the Law Revision Act, the Copyright Act, and the Interpretation and General Clauses Act. Madam Speaker, the Attorney General recently met and discussed the draft legal profession bill with a delegation from the Bar Association. This bill, which will be enacted before the end of 2015, will provide statutory support for a new, effective, and long-needed disciplinary mechanism for holding lawyers to account. And also, Madam Speaker, and also protecting lawyers. So it is a balanced law to bring them to account, but in the same way, protecting them, Madam Speaker. So the use of client accounts, I'm saying to lawyers, be careful with that. Madam Speaker, the police are an important component of maintaining law and order in the country. In that regard, during this fiscal year, an additional 38 police officers will be trained. This will facilitate the filling of a number of vacancies in the police force. Citizens, however, need to be reminded that they too have a role in ensuring that the law is enforced by cooperating with the enforcement officers and making reports to the authorities on criminal matters of which they are aware. Madam Speaker, the new police stations constructed in La Plaine and Calibishi, as I said earlier, will be formally commissioned during the year, and renovation works at the police barracks in Mongoose will continue. Madam Speaker, throughout the life of this government, we have taken various measures that have aimed at encouraging citizens to improve their well-being and to be in a position to make a greater contribution to national development. With significant support from bilateral partners, we have made substantial investments in education, in health, in physical infrastructure, particularly the road network, in tourism, air access, and in small business development. As citizens, we must take the responsibility for making these investments useful and beneficial to all. One of the areas of concern, Madam Speaker, relates to the willingness of citizens to pay taxes that are due. If those of us who are required to pay keep this obligation, government would be in a better position to provide more goods and services. For example, Madam Speaker, a recent review of the vehicle license fees indicates that only an estimated 62% of the revenue from that source are being paid. Madam Speaker, this is not acceptable. Such vehicle owners should note that the police will step up their surveillance to ensure that all defaulters make the required payments. Government has also invested in improving the audit capacity of the revenue agencies so that we are in a better position to assess the amount of taxes and fees that are owed to the state. Government has been generous with tax relief, very generous with tax relief, so that there will be a greater willingness to pay what is owed. Madam Speaker, we must also take greater responsibility for our health. A good healthcare system and a hospital on its own will not prevent illnesses. There must be greater emphasis on prevention. We must make healthier choices in what we eat and drink, and take the responsibility for remaining active so as to reduce the possibilities for developing chronic, non-communicable diseases. The success of our local manufacturers and producers depends in large measure on the support they receive from the population. Madam Speaker, if we continue to believe that everything that is produced elsewhere is better than what is produced in Dominica, then we will never be in a position to have large producers. We can provide the jobs, who can provide the jobs that we want for our people. I find it extraordinarily mind-boggling that we would buy 2 cupcakes from a country instead of buying our locally produced cakes here in Dominica. And then we complain about jobs and we complain about foreign exchange. We have to take responsibility for our country. And if we believe what is manufactured elsewhere is better than what we have in Dominica, how are we going to get to the point that all of us would like to get to? A place of prosperity, a place of peace and justice, Madam Speaker. We have our part to play as citizens. So we have a responsibility to support local industries. As a clear example, Madam Speaker, once the abattoir is operationalized, if the Dominican public doesn't support the pork and poultry produced by the abattoir, that industry will not succeed. Madam Speaker, there are many other areas which can be highlighted, but suffice it to say that if such responsibilities are not taken seriously, we will not achieve the level of prosperity and peace that we target. In that regard, for this budget, we have identified some areas in which the population can demonstrate some responsibility. Support for maintaining road infrastructure. Madam Speaker, the Growth and Social Protection Strategy, GSPS, identified physical infrastructure as Dominica's binding constraint. This was no surprise to us, since we recognized that much needed to be done to improve physical infrastructure. This was more so in respect of road infrastructure. Since 2005, this government has been focusing on trying to address this. Today, Madam Speaker, I am heartened when I hear of the comments of satisfaction expressed by road users, visitors, and nationals alike on the improved quality of our major roadways in Dominica. These improvements have come at a significant cost, and a short summary of which is the following, Madam Speaker. The Eo-Libla Highway, over $94 million. Rosa Melvin Law Road Upgrade, Lot 1, Concassado to Canefield, $34.4 million. Dr. Nicholas Liverpool Highway, $84.5 million. Road Improvement and Maintenance Program, $42.3 million. Rosa Road Reinstatement, $30.1 million. Lube to Granby, $8.8 million. Road surface in Harbour Lane and Rodney Street, over $0.8 million. Road surface in Lagon to Purple Turtle, $1.1 million. Rehabilitation of Mount Prosper Road, $1.9 million. Penville to Vickers Road Rehabilitation, $6.9 million. Petite Savan to Boutica Daly's Road Rehabilitation, $1.2 million. Point Michel Roadway, $2 million. Soufriere Scott said Sea Defense Road, $12.2 million. A total expenditure, Madam Speaker, of $320.3 million. This is not an exhaustive list of the roads already done. In addition, works are ongoing on the East Coast roads, with interventions being made on critical sections, with one project funded by the EU in the amount of approximately $20 million, and the other funded by the World Bank in the amount of approximately $46.3 million. These amounts do not include expenditure on village and community roads, nor feeder roads. As the roads are rehabilitated, it is important that they are maintained so that they are always in good condition. In 2014-2015, an amount exceeding $13 million was spent on road maintenance. As I stated earlier, we have approached a friendly nation for support in financing much of the cost associated with major highway improvements, particularly in eastern and southeastern districts. We are confident of securing this support. But I believe strongly, Madam Speaker, that it is not only fair and desirable for Dominicans who will benefit directly from continuous highway improvements to contribute a little more to maintenance of our roads. In light of the foregoing, Madam Speaker, I propose that a highway maintenance levy be applied to all classes of vehicles. The rates will be as follows. Commercial vehicles, $150 per annum. Trucks and dumpers, $150 per annum. Private vehicles, $100 per annum. Motorcycles, $50 per annum. In all respect, Madam Speaker, these are negligible rates. You divide 100 by 12, or 100 by 365 days in the year, Madam Speaker, and you will understand how much people have been asked to pay. But people who talk about roads in the United States, we know of the significant tolls we pay in Europe, in the United States. Every single city you go to or town in the United States, you almost have to pay some high tolls, Madam Speaker. Coming from the Bronx to go into Manhattan, ask yourself how many tolls you have to pay to get into Manhattan. And when you get into Manhattan, Madam Speaker, you don't have the best roads in the world. So one of the worst roads you have in the world, Madam Speaker, is inside Manhattan. So we have to recognize our contribution. These rates, Madam Speaker, these rates must be paid at the time that the annual license fee is payable and must be paid in full.
Order, please.
It does not form a part of the license fee. It does not form part of the license fee, and a separate marker will be provided to identify those vehicles for which the levy is paid. The rates will come into effect on 1st September 2015. Madam Speaker, as stated earlier, there are hundreds of vehicles on the roads of Dominica that are not licensed and most likely are uninsured. This is not only dangerous and unlawful, Madam Speaker, but it is also selfish on the part of perpetrators. Madam Speaker, there will be a greater vigilance by the police force, as I said, to detect these defaulters, and the law is clear on what course of action can be taken against offenders, Madam Speaker. This measure will be reviewed after 2 years of existence. Proceeds from the highway maintenance levy shall form part of a special purpose dedicated revenue stream geared exclusively towards the upkeep of the island's main highways. Taking responsibility for our health. Madam Speaker, one of the greatest challenges government faces is maintaining a healthy population and providing high-quality medical care to citizens, and doing so at the least possible cost. The health statistics show areas of concern. For the period 2010 to 2014, 137 amputations were performed due to diabetes. For the period 2004 to 2013, 1,188 deaths due to the various types of cancers were recorded. The incidence of obesity among the 0 to 5 age group is 3.4%, while 6.9% are said to be overweight. Obesity in adult females is estimated at 32.7%, and adult males is 8.6%. The prevalence of hypertension among adults is 32.1%. The prevalence of diabetes among adults is 17.7%. Madam Speaker, these are worrying statistics, and we have to take note of this, Madam Speaker. Government has attempted to deal with these concerns through various interventions. Earlier in this address, I updated the population on the status of the construction of a new national hospital. The new facilities present the opportunity to introduce new services. In addition, improvements will be made to various health centers around the island. We are also seeking models of health financing that meet the needs of the Dominican population. Following the announcement in last year's budget, the Pan American Health Organization was approached to provide technical assistance in that regard. I am pleased to indicate that a team from PAO visited Dominica to undertake the exercise. Among the findings are there are high expectations in the population to be financially protected through a system of waiver fees when requiring health services. This constitutes an opportunity to build up a modern, more transparent system of financial protection as part of a broader strategy to make progress towards the UA/UHC. There are many challenges related to efficiency, equity, and sustainability faced by Dominica's health system and its health financing system. There is ample room for improvement in the organization of the health system that requires a comprehensive approach, with health financing being only part of the solution. There are several issues related to lack of information on cost of health services delivered and inefficiencies that need a more in-depth analysis to be performed in a systematic fashion. There is a broader discussion required in order to create consensus with regards to the objectives to which Dominica's health system should evolve in order to better answer the needs of the population. The report recognizes that the actions, recommendations outlined will have to be complemented with interventions in other areas, including, but not limited to, health promotion and disease prevention. The technical work will continue to determine the best mix of options which the government can implement. Government wishes to discourage the excessive use of goods and substances that increase the risk factors associated with various illnesses. Each individual must take responsibility for his or her health and that of his or her family. We have encouraged the population to increase physical activity and have facilitated this by improving the playing fields and hard courts around the island. The new project to provide lighting at some playing fields and the construction of a new indoor facility is also part of that plan. We have gone as far as allowing time off during normal working day for public officers to attend exercise classes paid for in full by the government. As part of the collective bargaining agreement, both the Public Service Union and the Police Welfare Association were provided some assistance to provide exercise facilities for the members. While we have introduced interventions to encourage physical activity, there is need to take action to reduce the consumption of substances which have a direct causal link to the incidence of CNCDs. Among the major contributors to ill health are the bad practices of smoking and excessive consumption of alcohol, as well as food and drinks with a high sugar content. I therefore propose the following measures to discourage the use of these items: cigars, cigarettes, and alcoholic beverages already attract an excise tax. The excise tax rate on all these items will be increased by 10%. The following will be added to the list of items attracting an excise tax: sugar confectionery, that is sweets and candy, that is 1704 in the schedule; soft drinks and other sweetened drinks, including energy drinks, 2202; chocolate bars. The excise tax will be set at 10%. These new rates will become effective from 1st September 2015. To assist with this exercise, the revenues collected from this measure will contribute to the production and maintenance of a national Get Healthy campaign, in which we take the message to our schools, civic and community organizations, churches, and NGOs, and the public at large. Support for local agriculture. Madam Speaker, in 2008, at the start of the global financial crisis, and at a time when global oil prices were high and rising, prices of basic food commodities were increasing rapidly. Governments sought to protect the population by reducing the import duties on a number of food items. At that time, the import duty was reduced from rates ranging from 5% to 20% to 0%. A number of the items were included in that list. It is proposed that the rate of import duty, which existed in 2008, be reinstated on some of these items. The list includes, Madam Speaker, minced ground meat, Madam Speaker, from 0 back to the 5%, other from 0 to 5%, cut with bone, other beef, Madam Speaker, 0 to 5%, boneless, other 0 to 5%, frozen other 0 to 30%, meat of goats 0 to 5%, pig trotters 0 to 5%, back and next, Madam Speaker, it is 0, it shall remain 0. Wings, it is 0, it shall remain 0, Madam Speaker. Liver, 0 to 20, back to 20%, and other 0 back to 20%. Meat of bovine animals, salted or in brine, 0 back to 5%, Madam Speaker. The rates of import duty on chicken wings and backs and necks will remain at 0, Madam Speaker. In the case of this particular measure, it is intended that the resultant additional revenue would go towards the continued development and upgrade of the local livestock sector. In due course, it is hoped that the temptation to buy foreign will give way to the commitment to supporting local. So, with regards to this measure, Madam Speaker, we will see these monies going to agriculture, going to feeder roads, going to improve and expand the livestock production. Madam Speaker, this measure is taken at a time when final arrangements have been made for the completion of the abattoir, and financial support is being provided in the budget to increase production to supply the abattoir. Every step, Madam Speaker, we get closer to becoming self-sufficient in poultry and pork. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, in this budget, there's over $4 million that will provide to farmers who are already in the pork and poultry business, and new ones who will come in. We'll provide them with financial support to get the facility up to the level, and those who would like to get involved will be provided with financial support in the budget. Madam Speaker, the provisions that I have outlined in this budget address are consistent with the promises we made to the people, and in many respects are a continuation of the work that we have been doing to bring prosperity, justice, and peace to all our citizens and residents. Madam Speaker, as I said from the outset, this is a budget focused on keeping things real in the sight and consciousness of Dominicans. We have responded to the legitimate hopes and expectations of the population. We have not endangered progress made over the last 15 years, nor have we raised expectation levels beyond what is realistic and achievable. Every policy outlined in this budget has been studied, quantified, and can be achieved. They shall all, Madam Speaker, be pursued with vigor. A deliberate attempt was made in this budget to respond positively to the requests of social partners and civil society. As I said earlier, in normal times, we would have granted almost all of what was sought, because, in all fairness, there were no outrageous requests by the various subsectors. I think Dominicans generally understand and appreciate the environment in which we operate and the fact that revenue is limited based on our relatively small size, and also the need for Dominica to remain competitive in these very challenging economic times. I know the temptation will be there to say what we have done, what we have given, and what we're proposing is not enough. Saying that is the easy part, Madam Speaker. What I would like is for persons to go on and say what else could have been given, what else could have been done, and what else could have been offered that would not adversely impact the finances of this country or place further burden on taxpayers and or investors, Madam Speaker. We have to be mindful always of the need to remain competitive for persons visiting and otherwise doing business with Dominica. Invariably have the choice of going elsewhere. The challenge for this and any government is to match expectations with capacity and capability. Dominica belongs to Dominicans. The growth and development of Dominica are the primary responsibility of Dominicans and those who reside, access, and enjoy this beautiful land of ours. General elections are understandably divisive, and the last ones were. But there are no elections on the immediate horizon. Indeed, there will be no general elections in Dominica for at least 4 years. I want, as leader of this country, to summon citizens and residents alike to national service. We have 4 years to build and propel this country to the next level of its development. So with general elections behind us, Madam Speaker, it is my fervent wish that debate on this budget would signal the start of a new era in Dominica politics. Yes. An era in which citizens can turn on the radio and hear lively, objective discussions on issues that affect their lives. Let this be the start of a period in our development where the interest of the country is paramount, where there can be bipartisan support for measures deemed to be in the best interest of Dominicans. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, our politics impacts and shapes every facet of societal activity. Among some, there seems to be an unwritten rule that everything said and done by the government of the day must be criticized and undermined. That, Madam Speaker, is regrettable, Madam Speaker. Development is not just about government or opposition, for that matter. It is about leadership which the government is giving. It is about participation. It is about participation, mutual respect, love of country, and hard work. It is not about participation of some. It is about the involvement of all. We need all hands on deck and to the plow. We need a partnership approach and attitude to development. Public and private sectors alike must play their part as it relates to the quality of service we dispense to nationals, visitors, and investors. I want to end this statement, Madam Speaker, by thanking all the friends of Dominica, our bilateral and multilateral partners, for standing next to us and providing support whenever we are in need. But at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, we, the Dominicans, must always lead the charge for our own development. The question is, Where would we like to see Dominica 10, 15 years down the road? And what contribution am I prepared to make as an individual to achieve that desired goal? And each one of us must be held accountable, Madam Speaker. Each one of us must be held accountable. If you are a nurse, you have to be the best nurse the world can produce. If you're a teacher, you must be the best teacher the world has. If you are a farmer, you must be the best farmer, Madam Speaker. If you are a parliamentarian, you must be the best parliamentarian there is in the world, Madam Speaker. If you are a lawyer, you must be the best lawyer in the world. We have to work hard in this country, Madam Speaker. And we have to put Dominica first. Too many of us spend time, Madam Speaker, or resources, or energy, or talents to tear down this country rather than to build it up, Madam Speaker. If every one of us, the 70 plus Dominicans, and maybe the 70 plus who live out of Dominica, were to start thinking positive about Dominica, and start doing positive things about Dominica, and start saying positive things about Dominica, our country would be much further into advancement. So while government has a role to play, Madam Speaker, and government will continue to play that role, the country needs to be called to service, and we all must play our part in the development of Dominica. And we have to show and demonstrate this, not only in words, but in deeds and actions, Madam Speaker. And that's what the government has been doing over the last 50 years, and this is what we'll continue to do, Madam Speaker. I want, Madam Speaker, to express my gratitude to my cabinet colleagues. Because when I became Prime Minister, Minister of Finance in this country, Madam Speaker, I developed a participatory approach to the putting together of this budget. Back in the days, Cabinet would only hear it for the first time when they come to Parliament. Yes. Now every minister has the opportunity to read, to make comments, to make suggestions, to make amendments, and there's a wide consultation with the public on various aspects of the presentation. So this presentation here, Madam Speaker, is as a result of national consultation with various sectors and civil society, Madam Speaker. These are the wishes and aspirations of the Dominican people. And I want to thank persons like Minister Blanchard, who has brought in tremendous talent to the cabinet, Madam Speaker, from our own background of experience. And to all of you here in the Parliament, Minister Barron, who from a lawyer standpoint and also doing an excellent job in foreign affairs, and to young Senator Binwa, someone who I have the highest regard for, exceptionally bright, and we have been relying on his efforts. We have teacher Daniel, Catherine Daniel, who brings in tremendous knowledge of the public service to bring to bear. And my dear sister, my neighbor constituency of Paybush, Honorable Rosenpaul, with a vast knowledge in small business development, empowering women, empowering local communities. And we rely on her good counsel all the time for a number of areas in the advancement of this country, Madam Speaker. And of course, my young friend who gave up his studies to be here with us, Minister Daru, Cassius Daru, the warrior of the Kalanago territory. Very calm and unassuming, but he has a vast reservoir of knowledge and skills and talents. And I appreciate you very much. And of course, we have Ian Pinard, Minister Ian Pinard, who came back and who brought in a new and renewed vigor and energy. And of course, to the old guards, we have Mr. Regis, who has been there in the political circles for a long time, so he's not new in a sense. And to all my colleagues who have been here with us for a number of years, I want to appreciate publicly, or I appreciate your efforts and your commitment to the cause. And of course, to my dear Financial Secretary, most people would hear about FS and would hear about Mrs. Edwards and so forth. But I have said it before and I'll say it again, that Mrs. Edwards is one of the treasures of our country. A little tight-fisted, Madam Speaker, you know. Very, very frugal, you know. If you want your bank account to grow, employ Mrs. Edwards and so on. But for good reason, you know, for good reason. Because in small economies like that, Madam Speaker, fiscal prudence is important. Managing expenditure is important. And political parties may have ambitions. And it's important that you have people who are prepared to give you that advice, but very importantly, that you are prepared to listen and take the advice when warranted, Madam Speaker. And that's what we know to do. And to thank all the permanent secretaries, the CPO, the cabinet secretary, all of you, all the public servants. So at the end of the day, each one of us must do what we have to do in terms of our responsibilities to carry out the development agenda of the country. And to all every one of us in Dominica, I want to thank you profusely and profoundly. From me personally, and for the numerous prayers I received from prayer warriors here and overseas. So I want to thank all of you for this support, because leading small countries like ours, Madam Speaker, is not an easy task. Because when you look at the situation in every CARICOM country, they either have an IMF program or there is a homegrown structural adjustment program. There are real challenges out there, Madam Speaker. And I believe if we're able to implement this budget, the policies and programs enunciated in this budget, I believe Dominicans can see an increased prosperity in our country, where we can create jobs, sustainable jobs, and advance our economy to leaps and bounds. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you very much for allowing me to present this budget to the Parliament today. Thank you, and God bless our country. You ready for this afternoon, or you want to be Monday? You ready for this afternoon? You going this afternoon?
Let it podium.
No, I'll leave it to you. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it to you. No problem. No, you want it now or later? Oh, whatever. All right, Madam Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned until Monday at 10 a.m. Madam Speaker. Monday the 27th. Thank you.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
How long was that?
It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House be adjourned to Monday, 27th July at 10 a.m. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This Honorable House stands adjourned until Monday, 27th July at 10 a.m.